Martin, just in terms of the key ingredients, the key marketing ingredients, what are they, and how do you sort of put that into action?
Well, Rob, I think the combination of your introduction and what Matt's just navigated us through there provides the answer to this question, in that we said, run for the hills, head in the sand, but we think there's an opportunity, that word opportunity. Matt then gave us some superb stats, with advisors and accountants who aren't going anywhere near. Auto-enrolment, which clears the field for those who are. Secondly, with the business owners who don't know their own staging dates, which tells us, from a marketing point of view, we've got an education job on. Okay, so I think the ingredient number one is the value proposition, which is a sort of marketing term for message. What are we going to tell the audience? Because up to now, a lot of firms who have embraced the auto-enrolment opportunity have gone and said, your staging date's coming up, sort of thing. And for the business owner's looked at that and gone, it's not a priority. And the machine's not working this morning, and that is a priority to fix. So we'll forget about that, and I'm not comfortable with that, and I'm not familiar with that, and it looks like a headache, it smells like a headache, so I don't want to go anywhere near it. So when the accountant comes in with a piece of marketing, whatever form that takes, whether that's a direct mail piece, an email piece, or an invitation piece, whatever that is, seminar piece, and then it says, learn all about auto-enrolment. Well, no, I'm not very interested, says the client. It's not a priority. I don't understand it. It looks difficult. It looks complicated. Matt just navigated us through the minefield that it actually is. So all of these attempts at marketing will automatically turn the prospective client off. Therefore, we can't do that. Therefore, we have to educate by being the sole source supply of pain relief here. Because if this is a headache, we need to be the paracetamol that removes that headache. And therefore, we have to educate them, because the knowledge removes part of the fear, first of all. Then we have to explain it in simplistic layman terms so that the average lay client, people like me, understand it. And then help is at hand. The superhero cape is then donned by the practice, saying, don't worry about it, we've got it covered for you, come to us, bring me your weary and your, and all of your concerns, and we will sort it out for you. So the value proposition, the message that we put across, is ingredient number one, because without that bit being right, we're kind of on a back foot immediately with the your staging date is due message, which hasn't worked and will not work in the main. So that's the first ingredient. The second ingredient then is to understand who the audience is, because for many of us, in terms of whether we're running whether it's a sole practitioner, or whether it's a multi-partner firm, or somewhere in between that, then we're going to have various bits and pieces lying around the office. The person we spoke to, the business cards, the LinkedIn connections, the database of subscribers to the newsletter. Where do we go first? So we have to understand who our audience is, and there's very clever ways in which we can go about that to make that a lot more intelligent, a lot more thought through, a lot easier. So I would say that our first two ingredients that take quite a while to get right is the message, what are we broadcasting, and if we were on the other side of the table, is what we're broadcasting attractive or not, because AE has not yet proven to be an attractive marketing topic, so we have to make it so. And secondly, who are we broadcasting to? Because we're clearly wanting the people who don't know, who need help, who need hand-holding, because the value will not be in the implementation of the service, the value will be in the removing of the pain, the removing of the fear, and the holding of the hand. So I'd say those are the two first critical ingredients to get the marketing right for AE.
Fantastic. And in terms of then moving on to developing a kind of marketing strategy, what would be the next steps there?
I can imagine our viewers going, already, marketing strategy, that's not what we got into accountancy for. So I can imagine that all of a sudden now, there's some of us now thinking, do I really need a strategy? Sadly, yes, you do. There needs to be a strategy for all these things. And there are various points, but it isn't rocket science. And so with a little bit of hunger and a little bit of focus, this can come across as being fairly straightforward. Message first. Let's get that done. Broadcast audience second. And with that, if, for example, we're using a simple platform, a MailChimp platform is the first thing that comes to my mind, for sending out our newsletters, then we can see who is opening these newsletters. We can see who is clicking on any of the links that might be in the newsletters. So in the case of MailChimp, there's a rating on our subscribers as to how often they read our content. This allows us very comfortably to prioritize an immediate priority prospect list, if we will, because we have an interest. We can see quite straight away who's interested in our message, how often they opened it, how recently they opened it, how often they read our communiques generally. So the audience can be defined in that way. But once we have done that, then the next part of the marketing strategy is to decide, okay, how are we going to reach this audience? We can't assume they're going to find us, sat here waiting for the phone to ring, for the inbox to chime, so we can't do that, so we're going to have to go and reach. Now, I don't know of any prescriptive ways that are guaranteed to work for all of our viewers of this session. What I do know is there needs to be a nice mix, 2 or 3 ways that we can reach the audience, and the most common ones are going out via email mailing. There's pros and cons to that. Going out via some form of event. There are pros and cons to that. And going out by some form of published content, such as a blog, for example. Again, things that may be alien to our audience. So it may well be for some of us who are with us today that we find different ways of reaching the audience, and we can get the message out a different way. For some of us, maybe direct marketing works, in terms of direct mail, in terms of telemarketing. Maybe those work. Maybe it is some other form, or passive form of marketing. But whatever it is, there needs to be 3 ways. The next part of the strategy after message and audience is 3 ways to find our audience and to get that education out and invite them to do something about it. And then 3 ways to be found for those who are looking in one way or another. If we don't know when our staging date is, and then suddenly we get some communique that's upon us, who can help with this sort of thing, you know? So if we start to sort of put this all together, message, audience, 3 ways to find, 3 ways to be found, then what resources we need, maybe a CRM system and someone to help us perhaps is all we need, and then the critical bit that no one ever does, the scheduling. The scheduling of making it happen. Right now, Rob, we've got something called the Friday phenomenon. I don't understand the science behind it, but a lot of firms I've seen are taking Fridays away from their day-to-day, shutting the door, switching off the email, and getting on with what we might call working on the practice. And it is in those days, for some reason, maybe that makes the weekend come faster, I don't know, but Fridays seem to be working out very well for a number of firms who taking that time to make things happen. If we don't schedule it, it just doesn't happen. It's simple as that, and that's been proven over and over again. And then the last step after that is simply metrics. How do we know that any of this is working? How do we know that any of this is providing a return on investment for us? And it's quite simple. It's inquiries, appointments in diaries, and deals done. Those are the 3 main metrics. Yeah. So that would be the strategy in simplistic terms. That's the strategy to have on a consistent basis, on a compound basis, to ensure that the audience is being educated and they're coming to us first.
Great.
And I could actually chip in on that as well,
sure.
Because Smart Pension are not just a master trust, we're also a technology company and we're very good at marketing. So we've realised that there is a massive advice gap, and we want to help the advisors that we work with maximise on that advice gap. So our team actually help our advisors market, and we've also sponsored a piece of software which is a social media and digital marketing software with lots of other good stuff connected to it that we pretty much give for free to our advisors. And in those 4 categories that I mentioned that your clients will fall into, which I'm aware I didn't actually cover in detail, in the first category with new companies still to stage, well, it's not just the clients that you've already got, it's the clients that are screaming for that advice. Yes. That marketing becomes essential. Yes. The second category, which I didn't actually talk about in depth, is people that have already staged but aren't happy with their current provider. Nobody really realises in the industry that you can actually move providers quite easily, and there is a lot of movement within the auto-enrolment realm, and a lot of the time without any financial penalty. There's a great deal of businesses out there. If you marketed the right message for that, you would get a lot of new business, and that could be potentially bigger firms that have already staged as well. Yeah. And then you've also got organisations that have staged and are happy with their current provider. Well, that's not the end of the game for advisors either, if you market yourself in the right way, because auto-enrolment moves very quickly and evolves very quickly. So processes evolve, systems evolve, advisors evolve, and the pension providers evolve or disappear. There are currently about, as I said, 100 master trusts. When the dust settles, there could be around 10. So there's a lot of master trusts that are going to disappear. So what is good for a company now might not be good for them in 3 years' time when they come to re-enroll. So if you find out when their re-enrollment date is and book to call them a few months before their re-enrollment date, there may be some business because they may not be happy with their provider then. And then there's also a massive piece of marketing work you could do around missed staging dates. Because depending on who you talk to, numbers vary, but Aviva say that about 1 in 7 companies that come to them have missed their staging date. With Now Pensions, it's 1 in 5. And with us, it's around 1 in 5, 1 in 4. So, and that is only going to get bigger as the companies get smaller and less sophisticated. So there's a lot of companies frightened because they miss their staging date. They think they're going to get fined. If you market yourself in the right way, there's a lot of business to be had.
Great, thank you. And just back to you, Martin, on the, see, you said there's sort of 3 different ways you could go out to market on this. I mean, we could perhaps go back to this later on if we've got time at the end, but what would you say is the sort of the one thing, if as an accountant, what do they need to build on in terms of marketing and business development? What would you, if you were to sort of single out one of those activities?
In terms of what's working in the field, in terms of that, what I've seen, when we talk here and we talk about the theory of how to do something, I'm almost hearing what's being thought of at the, everyone who's watching us right now. Is like, yeah, but where'd you start? Yeah, but I've got no time. Yeah, but this. Yeah, but that. Yeah, but Sally's off today, and so on and sick, and so on. And these are the real issues of the average practitioner. So until there is a priority given to this, all the theory goes away. But what works, I've found, is a mindset shift in the practitioner. The mindset shift in the practitioner from selling services, which is where we start, exchanging some expertise for some money, okay, through to seeking to serve and take that pain away, as we talked about earlier, from the client, really resonates with the business owners, the likes of me. So what I've seen working is practitioners prioritizing who they want to go after, okay, because there are 7 avenues that we can look at to start building a prospect list of who do we approach with all this. And in those 7 avenues, which if we get time, I'll explain a little bit later on, they have prioritised who they want to really work with and who they would have most impact with, and invite them to a very gentle kind of roundtable style event. So it's not a seminar where you're going to be pitched auto-enrolment, for example, in exchange for your business card and a buffet, but rather a boardroom style environment with peer level support. But you've got your grade A prospects in there, the best of the best, perhaps even the wish list is in there. And the practice, or the practitioner, is playing the role of the educator here and saying, look, we know what you're going through, we know what you're feeling, we're here to help. Tell me what questions you've got, let me take you through it step by step. And in that environment, which works very, very positively when you've got your wish list or your grade A type prospects in the room, it's a very informal but very potent way of winning new work almost straight away. Because it's like, well, I'm convinced, my peers are giving me the social proof of this, you're here right now and you can deliver this, I get the sense that you're looking to help me rather than sell me something, I'm inclined now to not look any further, I'll come to you. So I found that style of event, a round table, a forum, call it what we will, in a sort of a local hotel, if not in the offices, is a very, very inexpensive way, but a very focused and powerful way of getting grade A prospects, the best of the best, to understand the issue, understand the need to work with an advisor, as Matt says, and then choose you as the de facto supplier on that basis.
Funny enough, we just had a question that kind of relates to that. We've had a few questions in already, so I just encourage you to keep on posting those questions. We will answer more at the end. But this one does seem particularly relevant. There are questions on fees, which we'll go back to perhaps later on as well. But this one here from Chester says, should I hold a physical auto-enrolment event for clients, which you just touched on there, Martin, but then how much detail should I go into at these events?
So enough to entice them to believe that you have the answer, and not too much so they could take it somewhere else, is the most simplistic answer I can give it to that. So what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to break it down. Layman's language is a favourite phrase of mine. The business owner, of which I am one, of which I can represent, we need things broken down in very simplistic terms, we're spinning a lot of plates, just as practitioners are, and this is another thing on our plate that we don't necessarily have a great grasp of. So please show us, in layman's terms, what it's all about, explain that to us, explain its origins, explain its impact, explain its timetable. By all means do that for us in an event-style situation. And our practitioner here from Chester may wish to trial this idea of a sort of a smaller scale event to see if it works, and then scale it up if it does, and then suggest what the benefits are or what the outcomes are to the business owner if they take this responsibility and give it to the practice to deal with on their behalf, and then have some form of what we know as a call to action to say, and if you want to get started, we can do that, and have some facility to book an appointment in a diary or to take the first steps towards working together whilst we have a captive audience where we've built up strong goodwill.
And at Smart Pension, we actually assist the advisors that we work with to organise events and to do additional over and above the normal marketing. So we will actually provide educational resources, and we will also provide bodies to come along and be the expert on auto-enrolment if we're working with a partner.
There we are.
Fantastic. And then just to kind of wrap up this little section on just focusing on the marketing aspects, if in terms of kind of maybe more experience from the field again, Martin, if you've got that, in actually turn it into action in terms of things like social and email, where do we ever start? So we schedule the time first of all. We schedule the time to work on it. That's got to happen. If it's not in the diary, I find practitioners it doesn't happen. My evidence is not anything I can show on in terms of survey or questionnaire response, things of that nature. Mine's anecdotal. It's the managing partner's office at 8 o'clock at night. It's the corridor around the corner from the tax department. It's the canteen, and so these are where my conversations take place. And what I find is these things don't happen because they're not given priority, because we have recurring fees, so we can just carry on, sort of thing, and we don't need to go out and win work of this kind. But if the mindset changes to our responsibility as a professional to serve the client, this is a great way of serving, then time should be scheduled towards working on a marketing strategy. So in terms of, we've got two choices essentially. I mean, some of us watching today might be sole practitioners, some of us might be multi-partner firms, some of us might have marketing resource, some of us might not. If we've got marketing resource, we obviously employ it, whether that's a department or an individual or a practice manager or whomever. We obviously get them involved to carry out the work. So essentially the practitioner will design and it will be implemented by somebody else. If we are a sole practitioner, then we need to outsource. And outsource isn't actually as difficult as we think these days in the digital age. It's quite straightforward to find individuals to support us. I mean, Matt's already mentioned that Smart Pension have an answer there. Yeah. But essentially, those three ways of reaching, we decide on the three ways, we pick the first one, we schedule some time to say, right, how is it going to happen? What are the first steps? I need to educate. I probably need a slide deck. I better build one, in Pages or PowerPoint or whatever I use. I then need to have some sort of event. What would be a venue? Let's give someone the job of finding a venue. When do I want this? I probably want it sooner rather than later. Then's a good time. I'll do it. And it's just these simple, small steps. It's very, very straightforward. It's very, very common sense orientated. There isn't rocket science involved here. But it's things we don't do. It's the behaviours that don't happen. The key is behavioural change. When behavioural change, mindset change occurs, then the steps become self-suggesting, ultimately. We say, right, first stage, I've got to get some time. Now I've got to get a prospect list from somewhere. Now I've got to reach out to them in some way, and email marketing is by far the most common way of doing that. So, I can't write marketing copy. And something I loved, if I've just made very briefly, Robert, explain. In 2015 in Paris, I was speaking in front of a global audience there, and I posed a question to them, a very generic question, which said, in general, why do you think that most marketing in the accounting profession fails to yield the results that the practitioners wanted? And a gentleman from India came up with this superb phrase, and he said, Martin, the DNA of marketing is not in our blood. And I made a joke of that and said, can I steal that and claim that I came up with it? But it's actually not mine. And the phrase just perfectly encapsulated the issues that a lot of practitioners have. We're not marketeers, we don't know where to start. But in terms of building relationships, and we're in a relationship business, then all we're doing is educating. So we should be able to do that. So we should be able to write some technical copy of some kind.
and give it to someone to polish it into marketing copy so that it's attractive when it goes out into the inboxes of people like me, and has the marketing call to actions, has the attention, the interest, the desire, the action sections to it.
Yeah.
But in terms of what we want to put across, it's a room with some time scheduled, with no interruptions, to decide what we want to do, how we want to do it, when we want to do it, and then get other people to help us.